Hooray! We made it to the end of 8th grade. This will be your last assignment for the year. So once this is done, you are officially free from me. As a reminder, you do have until next Wednesday, May 27th, to complete all of your assignments, not just this one. That's when this officially will be due, on the 27th. But all of your assignments. So anything that you're missing, that you haven't done, that you need to redo, you have until May 27th to get those done. This last assignment is summative. It is called a poetry anthology. So basically, an anthology is just like a collection of a bunch of works of similar genre. If you've ever seen like a real like literature book, like a book that has like a lot of stories in it, that's an anthology. So it's just a fancy word for collection. So for those of you who have written your 7 poems already, this is going to be super easy. For those of you who have not written your poems, it's going to be a little bit harder. It's going to take a little bit longer. So I want to go over with you what goes in your anthology, what it should look like, what I'm going to be looking for as I'm grading your anthology, and then I'll show you how to work in this document, okay? So for your poems, they should be typed and they should be centered. They should use capital letters and periods and other punctuation as needed. Words should be spelled correctly, right? This is a summative assessment. So we did all of those drafts of your poems. Now's the time when you can go back, you can make changes to your poems, you can rewrite your poems if you didn't like them or you didn't like the score you got on them. And you need to run a spell check. If you don't know how to do that, you go to Tools, Spelling, Spell Check. Okay. You can also add a Google. I don't know if you guys can, but there's a Google add-on called Grammarly. You can always run your document through that as well. So all your poems need to have titles, and you'll see that on your slides. All your poems should be written in English. I know some of you use some Spanish lyrics, but just make sure you provide me the translation. And then we're going to go over the requirements on the next slide. In addition to that, you want to make this look pretty. So your anthology needs a title. You're going to add slide backgrounds, and you're going to add images onto your slides that relate to your poem. If you notice these PowerPoint slides or these Google slides, they are the size of like paper. So they're in, they're in portrait mode, as opposed to landscape. So I did that so that your poems would fit better this way. And then you can put different stuff around them. As this is a final summative assessment, it will be graded on criteria B, organizing, criteria C, producing text, and criteria D, using language. So I want to talk about your poem requirements, and then we'll talk about grading. So over the last couple weeks, we've written 7 poems. The first poem you wrote was about your favorite hobby. That poem had to include 3 poetic devices of 2 different types, and it had to have 7 stanzas. You had a spoken word poem that I made you write out first and then record. For this assignment, for this anthology, you just need the written portion. It has to be about an experience, use imagery, and be 20 lines long. Where I'm from, this one you guys struggled with. It's going to have to follow the template, and it includes specific imagery. So as you go back and you look at that template, you need to make sure you have all of those lines and you have all of the images that go in those lines. So if it says that like, I am from nature times 2, that means you need to describe 2 things in nature that are around your house. All right. If you need help with that, just email me. Your extended metaphor was your identity poem, where you compared yourself to 2 similar but opposite objects. Again, you guys really struggled with this. You chose objects that were not in the same category. So if you say that you are a taco, right, the object that you do not want to be has to be in that same food category. So maybe you are a taco, but you are not Brussels sprouts. Okay. A lot of you are going to have to go back and review those items that you chose to make sure that they make sense. That poem has 5 stanzas. Your odes looked really good. I graded them yesterday. They're about ordinary objects. You use one simile, one metaphor. That is the part that got a lot of people. A lot of you guys use 2 similes instead of just one. One simile, one metaphor in 4 stanzas. Your found poem has to be from 5 songs, 15 lines long, and your lyrics are credited. You do not have to provide, if you're not changing your poem, you do not have to provide a color-coded key unless you want to. If your poem was awesome and you got a 20 out of 20 on it, just copy and paste it. And then don't worry about it. Just make sure you leave those credits down at the bottom so you're not plagiarizing. And then lastly, you had a haiku due yesterday, or I guess it's due today, because I'm recording this on Tuesday. And it's going to be about your 8th grade experience. It cannot use any of the banned words like quarantine, corona, virus, digital learning, any of that stuff. And it has to adhere to the 575 form. These are your 7 poems. Again, for those of you who have been working really hard during digital learning, you're just going to have to copy and paste them from your Google Doc to the slide that they go on. And then add a background and photos. For some of you, you're going to have to do a little bit more work because you haven't done the back work. All right, so here is our faux rubric. The full rubric doesn't fit on this slide, but here's kind of what I'm looking for. When I'm looking at organizing, do you have all 7 poems? Are your poems in order? Do your slides look pretty, right? Do they have backgrounds? Do they have photos? And have you left the slides in an order that makes sense? So as long as you don't mess with the order of the slides, you do all the poems, everyone should get an 8 out of 8 in this organizing category. Producing text. Do you have 7 poems? Do your poems meet the requirements? And if you did not like the score or the feedback I gave you on your draft of your poem, have you made changes or revisions to your poem? Did you, go back and add more imagery? Did you take that feedback and create something better? And we know that reflection is one of our ATLs. So this is a really good time to engage in that ATL, making changes to your poems based on the feedback that I gave you. If you don't know how to revise or change your poem, or you need help creating a simile or a metaphor, we'll have class on Wednesday and then again next Wednesday. So make sure you are, asking those questions and sending those emails so I can help you. And then finally, using language. This is, the part where did you run a spell check? Do all your poems have titles? Do you use capital letters and punctuations as needed? Are your words spelled correctly? And are your poems in English? So these are your 3 criteria. And again, I imagine that everyone will do super well on this assignment. So in this document, we've also, starting at slide 4, I've laid out the order in which your poem should go. Okay, so this is your title page. So you are going to come up with something super creative to go here. It could relate to one of your poems. It could relate to all of your poems. It could just, be a couple random words together. And then you put your name here. And then your poems will go in the order in which you wrote them. So your first poem will go, is my favorite hobby. And on all of your poems, I have added this nice reminder here to change the title. So you can just highlight this and then type in your title. And then here's where your poem goes. Remember that all of your poems should be centered. So if you're looking at Google Slides, you want to find the button that has the lines on it, not the one with the arrow, that's the spacing, but the one that has just lines, and you want to hit the second one, which will be centered. You don't have to tab every line. You don't have to hit the space bar 1,000 times. You just want to make sure you center that, and you'll do that on every slide. So my favorite hobby, your spoken word poem, where I'm from, your identity poem, your extended metaphor, your ode, your found poem, and your haiku. So those are your 7 poems. They'll go on those 7 slides. If you need assistance, this is what Wednesday's class will be about. Wednesday's live class, we'll be working on this or any of your other back work that you have. So if you have questions or you need help, make sure you come to class on Wednesday or next Wednesday, the 27th. That'll be our last live class together. And that's when your anthologies are due. They are due on the 27th, which is the last day to submit all work. I cannot take anything after the 27th because I need to one, grade all your anthologies, and 2, I need to work on your final grades. So the 27th is the absolute last day to turn in any and all work. If you turn it in earlier, that's awesome, but you're not required. Okay. So if you need me, if you need anything, reach out, email, come to class. Bye.